Hey everybody, Texaco Camaro Show. I have Chase Farrow on today with his red Z06 Corvette. Chase is an avid car guy. He's a professional audio, video engineer. He's one of the guys I like to call part of the Built Not Bought clan. Builds his own stuff, mods his own stuff, does a lot of content on social media about modifying his Corvette, doing a lot of mods and doing a lot of setup work and things like that. So a lot of cool content out there. But we go into the reason why he got into motorsports, the reason why he does what he does. And I think it's some really good content to talk about. This is basically the pilot episode. He's a part of the Texaco Camaro Show, but he's a car guy. So it just hits a little bit cleaner when you have somebody that's into the car industry, social media content, does the things that he does, but also loves to go out and rip on his car. If you like what you see, subscribe, hit the alerts, go to Apple Podcasts, go to all the streaming media sources that are out there. We'll be out there. Find us, like us, subscribe to us, tell your friends about us, share the content, take any content you want, share it around, do whatever you want to do. We just really love that you're watching. Hopefully you keep following us as we put out our episode 001 is going to be with Mike Dussault. But again, this is what we're calling the pilot with Chase Farrow. Without further ado, here's Chase. Welcome to the Texaco Camaro Show.
Glad to be here. I'm excited.
Man, this has been a little bit of a process, getting everything figured out.
Yeah. I mean, I never would have expected that when we first met that, we'd end up doing our own show together and working on something like this. So I'm just so beyond excited. I'm beyond excited to, get to sit and listen to, the guys that have mastered the craft of whether it's the driving side, the building side, the designing side. I mean, just can't wait to sit and listen to them.
No, and just for people that don't know is that, we did a show called Tailpipe Talks, or I was on it. You were producing it and a part of it.
Yeah.
Really cool show.
It was 3 years ago now?
Yeah.
Just about, yeah.
Must have been, because it was before COVID.
It was kind of in the, I think it was.
Oh, it was in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It had to be, because I wasn't even racing when COVID hit. I mean, I just started.
Yeah.
So yeah, it had to be in the middle of it.
Yeah. I think you had just pretty recently got that.
It was after my first year.
Yeah.
Yeah. LT5 was always in there, but I basically started my first, I did some local stuff, but the first Autocross, or the first Optima event was, I think, July at Pikes Peak International. But yeah, Tailpipe Talks, that's where we met.
Talk about doing something like that in your first year of racing. I mean, you really dove right in the deep end with it.
And that was banked turns too.
The first time a bank is it's scary.
Running on banking, and I've never raced before. So, but we're here to talk about you. We're here, the Texaco Camaro Show, and what I really want to accomplish today is just kind of go through, your childhood of starting there and moving up as far as, when you started to realize motorsports or cars or whatever your venue was. I mean, everybody has that, maybe not a inflection point, but could be. And kind of journey our way along, that route all the way to what you're doing now. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the format that we want to go through today, but essentially we can talk about anything that comes up,
I never have any issue talking about cars. So I mean, that's the subject.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, we mentioned the Tailpipe Talk show, how things progressed. It was always like a really big part of my life. And then doing Tailpipe Talk led me to where I'm at now, professionally. And so, yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, I want to get into that more later on, just kind of hear that whole story. But before we do, everybody gets a gift that comes on the show.
All right. See,
Any guesses?
it's like Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah. We are shooting this not too far after Christmas. So,
Yeah.
or gifts.
Perfect. Okay. It's got to be car themed.
Hopefully you're into it, but we'll see.
Oh, heck yeah. Gearhead Coffee.
Gearhead Coffee. So they're kind of a local brand here outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and
Yeah.
really cool people, and obviously just a cool name and great coffee. So hopefully you're a coffee drinker, but
Heck yeah.
yeah, before we get fully into it, I want to give kind of a proper introduction, kind of what I would call your street cred and what you're doing. So autocrosser,
Yeah. Yeah.
road racer, prior life, did some dirt biking stuff, a little bit of go-kart
Yeah.
stuff, and like you were talking about, automotive media, audio engineer. What I would say is just an all-around good guy.
Depends on who you ask.
That's right. But yeah, so I mean, let's start early. Where'd you grow up?
So I was born in the DFW area in Plano. That's where life started for me. But me and my family moved up towards the Sherman-Denison area. So we lived in Bells for a little bit while the house that they're in now, their forever home, was being built. And so when I was about third grade, we went from Bells to Whitewright. And that's, so that whole area is where, I pretty much spent.
So DFW guy.
Yeah, homegrown. I'm the only member of my family, actually, that was born in Texas. I have 4 siblings. I'm the only one that was born here.
And for people that don't know, DFW is 8 or 9 million people. So it's like,
yeah.
You don't really say like the actual town you're from. You just say DFW.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you do if somebody really knows, but otherwise it's like, look, just Dallas, Fort Worth area.
Oh, yeah.
People kind of get it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
we're DFW. A lot of people don't know this, but DFW is, I want to say, in its totality, somewhere in the roughly like 9,000 square miles, and it has a larger combined population of a lot of like European countries.
Yeah. Now that's really cool. So you grew up in the DFW area, and we've talked about it before off cameras. The car culture in DFW, it's there. I wouldn't say it's definitely not a West Coast California type scenario, but it's definitely there. Yeah. And as DFW has kind of grown, you've gotten, and maybe it's just over time too, Fast and Furious has come out during our kind of childhood to where we are now type of thing. You're a little younger than me, but, that I think brought people in. NASCAR's always brought people in, but it was a different flavor.
Yeah.
Like growing up in DFW, were you a part of, at a young age, like what were you were doing go-karts, you were doing dirt biking, or?
Yeah, nothing like really organized. It was basically just kind of one of those things where if it had wheels and an engine on it, I wanted to, see how fast it could go.
Right.
And so, growing up in Bells, there's not a whole lot of good roads, not a whole lot of opportunities to, there's no go-kart tracks out there, but there is, we used to build.
You can rip it up on the dirt. And
exactly. Well, so.
That's probably better than a track.
It can be.
Little puppy.
But when we lived in Bells, before the neighborhood was finished, when there were still like empty lots, me and a couple of my friends from down the street, and this is the funniest thing, there's 2 brothers and their names were Alex and Chase. And obviously my first name is Alex, my middle name is Chase. And so all the neighbor kids, we would all kind of get together and we would build like dirt bike ramps. We would like build little tracks in these empty lots. And then when it was time to build a house, they would level it and they'd run us out. So we'd move to another empty lot and we'd build another track. And it was just a lot of fun, being outside, building stuff and seeing how long we could go before running. And
what were you running on those tracks?
Small dirt bike.
Yeah. Just like 80.
Starting like 50s and then
50.
150s.
150.
So Alex and
that's pretty big.
Yeah.
It's been on what, 8? I mean.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, those things. Yeah. I learned the first time I got on one, I put it right into one of those, those pipe fences.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Good time.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you learn. You got to get those bumps and bruises. Otherwise, you never learn.
So, I mean, that's the thing that I think if I was going to put something together with people that I talk about that may come into motorsports at whatever level it is, it always starts kind of young with just, like you said, stuff that you can put, gas into and, go fast as a kid, which 10, 15 miles an hour is pretty fast depending on what age you are. And you ratchet up to 25 or 30 and it's like if you fall off going that speed, it feels real fast.
Yeah, it was something that was just always around because even though there wasn't a whole lot of road stuff, there's a dirt track. I think it's still there in Bells, just outside of Bells. And you could hear the circle track, the dirt cars from our neighborhood, even though it was a pretty good.
Loud.
Oh, they're real loud. And so hearing that every night. And then on top of that, my best friend growing up, he did junior dragsters. And his dad ended up buying a project car for us to kind of like play with and wrench on and work on when we were probably about 8 years old when he got it. It was a 65 Mustang Fastback. It had been used as a pro stock car, so it was completely gutted, had a cage, just a single seat bolted down. And so that was kind of one of my first experiences of like putting my hands on it and actually like turning a wrench and working on it. And so we got it running for the first time years after getting it, because it had been sitting for a while. It wasn't in the best of conditions. But we were probably about 12 and we had gotten it running. And I remember hearing it fire up for the first time, hearing the cam, that sound. And his dad took us out on some back roads with it very carefully. Didn't just go full send because obviously, like I said, one seat bolted down. We were just kind of holding on to the cage.
He's driving.
Yes. Yeah. He's driving.
You guys just like holding on.
We're holding on. And it might have been because there was no seat. It might have been because I was about 11 or 12 years old, but it felt so fast. It had still has a Trans King 3-speed ratchet shift auto in it. And when it come off the stall and it got to going, I mean, it was just, from that moment, it was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing. And it's only doing, and this was the real big, I think this was probably one of those like key moments for me, was on top of the sensation of it going fast and the sound and all that, there was also that like, dang, this thing's only doing this because we made it do this. Like when it came to us, it didn't run and we were little kids. And so it was
like 12, you said?
When we got it running, we were probably about 11 or 12, somewhere in that ballpark. But
so you were actually
8.
Turning wrenches at 12?
Yeah. So his dad would obviously, he bought the parts, but and he would help us. Obviously,
learning.
We couldn't get off, but if he would like,
it's all learning.
Yeah, if necessary, he would like break it loose, and then he would have us kind of do the rest.
Right.
And so,
but you start to learn things like, don't over tighten bolts, right?
Ours especially.
And I think we all still probably do it sometimes, but at least now you've probably broken enough off or stripped stuff out that you start to get to this point, you start to get a little queasy, and you're like, no, it doesn't need more.
Yeah.
It's a hard lesson for people to learn, I think. Little kids, for sure.
Sometimes you have to learn it a few times.
I think I'm still learning it.
There's times where I've got my torque wrench, a real nice one, digital backlit LCD screen, and I'm like, I should probably use that to measure. Or it's like, well, let's see, it calls for 100 foot-pounds. That's roughly 2 Ugga-Duggas, right?
Yeah, 2 Ugga-Duggas. So you relearn it once you have kids. So I got a 2.5-year-old, and you start making like plastic equipment things or whatever, or even just the battery box that's screwed on for kids' toys that you have to unscrew it.
Yeah.
And you put the batteries in because it's like child-proof. There's no Ugga-Duggas to that. That's like that's a little twist.
Oh, it's real fun when it gets tight, and then all of a sudden it gets loose.
When it gets loose, that's when you basically start cussing yourself going, I knew better than that.
Yeah.
I've done this before.
Got greedy. But yeah, doing that with that Mustang was probably what was that first like experience that got me like, okay, this is what got me turning wrenches on cars and what got me fascinated with the way they work and all the little moving bits and everything like that.
So, you were doing some go-kart stuff, you're doing some dirt bike stuff, or maybe a lot. Sound like you're going, lot.
Not a lot.
I mean, having fun.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's kind of where people start to really, you don't know it at the time, but you're basically understanding, like slip angles and like just things,
How much gas you can give.
things move out from underneath you, and where do you put your body, and how do you, even on a bike, you're still doing some, you could do a little bit of counter steering potentially if you really get messy or something, but all those little small inputs at a young age, you start, you don't know it, but all that stuff's getting put together for later on, I think.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, like that probably was really big on my like my understanding of like brake bias, because obviously like on a dirt bike you have separate control of your front brake versus your rear brake.
Yeah, don't hit that one as hard.
Exactly.
Hopefully you figure that out one time.
We'll say it was once.
Yeah, we'll go with one.
But so the motorsport thing, that was roughly around that same time period. And ironically, it was also with my best friend growing up, Tyler. And that was probably in that like 10, 11, 12-year-old time frame. I mean, I had seen races on TV and stuff like that. And I was always watching because I loved the sounds of them. I liked the way race cars move is just so graceful to me. And I was just always thought that it was the coolest thing. But real exposure, and the thing that probably I would say if there was one experience that like got me hooked on the racing side of it, it was when we were probably about 10, 11 years old, and his dad took us down to Ennis for the Fall Nationals, the NHRA.
For people that don't know, in south of Dallas, big drag racing strip, NHRA, years and years of,
Oh, yeah.
basically a lot of the people, that's where they would go and see what their car could do for some of the, open stuff.
Yeah, and it's one of the few tracks, well, now with Royal Purple gone in Houston, I think it might be the only track in Texas that Top Fuel can run on. I could be wrong about that, but
Those tracks are kind of, unfortunately, dying by the wayside because of growth of suburbs and stuff like that.
that's one thing I could rant on that for hours.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Have you been to any of those other tracks?
Down to like Royal Purple in Houston, or
Across the country, Royal Purple, whatever.
mostly in Texas? I've been up to like Thunder Valley and Noble. Obviously, spent a lot of time at Ennis. Spent some time at North Star.
Did you ever go to that 8th Mile that was in like Denton or Sanger or wherever it was up there?
That was I sometimes get the names mixed up, but that was North Star, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Just right off 35.
yeah, that sounds about right. Unfortunately, that one's
Yeah. It's like,
another one that, and without going into a big rant on this, it's what's always bewildered me. It's like, oh, you don't want to hear race cars. Why would you move right next to a racetrack? And the same people that complain and get those shut down are the same people that complain about people racing on the street. It's like,
it's like that double-edged sword because at the time, those tracks were so far out.
yeah,
Especially in Dallas, Fort Worth. If I could just use that, I don't know these other locations, and that's what they say happens. So I can only use what I kind of see in Dallas, Fort Worth is, I haven't really seen one shut down because of the expansion, but I would imagine that even if the people were okay with the noise, that property value goes up. And so the person that owns it's like,
yeah,
$15 here and there, or
the
big
noise and the insurance. I know insurance.
Yeah, insurance probably
cost.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, because
you're just basically waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, because for a time, I mean, we were kind of spoiled for at least for 8th Mile tracks, because we had North Star, Cannondale, Yellow Belly. That's a little bit of a rougher place. Now I think it's called XRP. It's still there. Paris, and then Ennis. So there was like anywhere you lived in DFW, there was a track at least within an hour of you.
Yeah.
But now most of them are gone. And Royal Purple down in Houston, where they have traditionally held Texas 2K, that was a track I thought was never going to go. And now it's like, wow, Royal Purple is gone.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And like, how much longer is Ennis going to be?
Yeah, it seems like I hadn't been down there in so long, so I don't even know what the expansion or anything looks like down there, like what's around it. I don't even know. But
yeah, and a lot of times it's not even houses. I mean, like Kennedale, I think it's Kennedale, or it might be North Star. It's just a parking lot for 18-wheelers now.
yeah,
They just store trailers.
that one was probably not the property value going up as much as it was, like you said, probably insurance. And it's like, how much are you really charging somebody to come out there to run?
Yeah.
And so you just can't make the numbers work.
Well, hopefully we got years to come on NS, but
Well, you got a better shot when like NHRA runs on your track.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Well, and so that was before I kind of went off on that little mini rant there. My bad. Tyler's dad took us down there. And it was the first time I had seen like pictures and videos of Top Fuel tracks. So I was seeing them on TV, but in person.
well, you had a big race. So you can get up and close from me and you almost.
Yeah. And they're all,
I didn't realize that until I went there. I mean, I was probably younger too, but that was interesting.
well, so the core memory for me there was they were getting ready to run. We wanted to be like right up on the fence. We wanted to see, so we were like sitting on the fence, on this like chain link fence along the side of the track. And his dad goes, "You might not want to sit up there." And he was like, it's loud, and it's, they put out some, like, I mean, those things they're earth shakers.
Yeah.
And we were probably about 10, 11 years old, and we're like, we're fine. No, we're fine. We want to be on the fence. And when they took off, when they launched, I mean, it about shook us off the fence. And I was like, the idea that something could possess that much power and be fundamentally the same obviously when you get into the more esoteric stuff, obviously very different, but fundamentally the same as the engine that's, in your truck and in my car. But instead of putting out
10x, 100x.
yeah, I mean, they make about 11,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
And so that was like, okay, this is racing. And so from there, I had always loved circuit stuff. I loved Le Mans. I loved the GT America stuff. And so it was just, it's just an obsession.
Yeah. So that's kind of what you see with people is there was some sort of moment, and I think you had said maybe prior that you'd done some models and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I had too many.
And whether it's airplanes or cars or whatever it is, it starts to teach you, or you start to learn about pieces on a car. You were fortunate enough at 11 or 12 that you're actually putting your hands on some pieces, and you probably got some knowledge of it. For myself, I mean, we were a car family, but how much of the model stuff did you get into, as far as just what were you building? Cars, planes?
Both. A lot of both. I think probably one of my favorite sets of toys that I had growing up was, I don't know if they make them anymore, but they were basically about this big, and it was like little model cars, and I had a few of them. My favorite was a yellow NSX, a yellow first-gen NSX, and what was super cool about it was that it came with different body pieces. And so you could build it, you could make it stock, but then you could also pop the bumpers off, pop the wing off, take the wheels off, and you could put a race car body on it. And so you could like do these like a bunch of different configurations of a stock body with the big wing, aftermarket wheels on a stock, the race wheels on the stock body, all the way up to like a full-blown race car. And I loved those. I was just constantly changing out the different body parts and seeing like the different combinations you could do. So it was a lot of stuff like that. And then I had a lot of plane models too, because I, for some reason, know a lot more about like fighter jets than any normal person ever probably should.
From the models.
It's partially from the models.
Some research.
So I grew up in a very military family.
Oh, okay.
So my brothers were in the Air Force. My grandfather was Army Air Corps. And so planes were just like something that, again,
And they're super cool.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking about military. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
all the other stuff's cool, but like nothing better than a jet flying over.
oh, dude, I never get tired of it. I absolutely never get tired of it. And I think at its core, my reasoning for being fascinated and loving fighter jets is the same as cars. And it's because I couldn't be any less interested in like passenger aircraft than, I have about the same interest in that as I do Greyhound buses. I think it's the nature of pushing the limits of what is currently physically possible versus what might be physically possible tomorrow. In the plane world, it was like nothing was going to outmaneuver at one time the Supermarine Spitfire, and then there was the MiG-15 and the F-86, and then the F-20s, and then getting into the modern planes, the F-15, the F-16, and then there's the F-22 and the aerobatics that it can do, or even on the Russian side, like the Su-27, the flanker platform. It's just that constant.
We won't get in politics on here.
No, probably a wise move, but
Stick with the American aircraft, just so people don't tune out.
But it's that constant pushing of that envelope and just
Commanding that power too.
Yeah, and never being satisfied with. It's like, okay, well, in Formula cars, I mean, especially the previous generation in Formula One, the fact that those things. One of the most mesmerizing things, it was Spa 2020 qualifying. I think it was Q2 or Q3. Lewis Hamilton averaged through, I was like turn 8, I want to say, at Spa, averaged like 191 mile an hour and with a peak lateral G-force of like 6.2 Gs.
That's jet stuff.
And so who knows what they'll be capable of later. So, it's just making things do things they shouldn't has always been just the coolest thing to me.
Yeah, I kind of think of it as like, even though you probably will never get into an F1 car and drive it or a jet, doing some of the motorsports stuff that we do, you get that feeling of being able to command that power.
Yeah.
I'm kind of feeling what that's like. And I think, and maybe you did this as a kid, and I know I did, and I tell people that, I'm not ashamed to say it, but I would make the noises of the cars that I thought that I would have at some point, or even if I had a jet or something. I'm sure you were building jets, so I'm sure you were flying around and making.
Oh yeah, airplane noises, car noises.
It's all part of it. And then later in life, hopefully, you get to have some aspect that the noise just happens, and you just get to drive it. You get to command that power.
Oh yeah, it can't be replicated. It's just so hard to put into words. People just got to really experience it, and when they do the first time, I love watching people experience driving a car differently. Because we all drive cars every day on the highway, but I love seeing people experience riding in, but driving on an autocross or on a road course for the first time, and really seeing, like, feeling what a car is capable of. And everyone kind of worries, like, well, I'm not the most skilled. I've never done this before. All these guys, they're serious. They've got real race cars. Their cars are faster than mine. I don't want to look like an idiot. But it doesn't matter.
I felt that way.
Oh yeah.
First coming in, I mean, it was like, I kind of threw myself to the wolves going to like a national series, but so, we're building models, we're getting through the ages here. You basically were working on this 65 Mustang, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that from 12 to 15, still working on that 65, doing other stuff.
Yeah. Lots and lots of sports. On top of that, being a musician as well. I started playing the drums when I was about 6, started playing guitar when I was about 8, piano around 11, saxophone at like 12. And so I just like I growing up.
The Renaissance man.
Well, growing up, I didn't watch TV. Like
Oh, really?
In fact,
That's pretty
we
good.
didn't have TV. We had TVs, but we didn't have like cable or anything like that coming into the house. So the only time I ever got to like watch TV was when I visited my grandparents. So I was constantly out exploring, doing the car stuff, I was after school doing something. The weekends, I was always at a friend's house, usually with Tyler, getting in trouble, working on the car, working on the Mustang, just constantly doing stuff. And as a kid, I mean, at the time I would have liked to have had like, oh yeah, man, I wish I had a PlayStation. I wish I had a Xbox or a TV in my room. But now that I'm older, I look at it, I'm like, I'm so happy that I didn't.
So when you're 15, what year is that?
15, that would have been 2009.
2009.
Yeah.
So gaming and all that was pretty
Just
big.
because, I was really into it swing. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I never played any video games. Like me and Tyler, we played a lot of Halo and stuff, but that was
computer stuff. You didn't have the actual PS4s and all that stuff.
no, that was Xbox. He did.
Yeah.
I had a
Racing
PlayStation.
games on there?
So I had a PlayStation, but it wasn't at my house. It was at my grandparents' house. And so
When am I going to grandma's?
exactly. And I had my wheel. It was a crappy little wheel and didn't even have a shifter with it. But as soon as I got there, I stole one of the kitchen chairs. I would get it all set up on like one of the little TV trays.
Yeah, those are the ones that like screw into like a table, right?
Yeah. And so it was Gran Turismo or some kind of driving game. And so I got really hooked on that kind of thing as well. I think Gran Turismo probably was a huge influence as well, because I loved reading like all the interesting stats about the cars. Polyphony Digital was always like really good about like little fun facts, like telling you, like you could read in the descriptions, telling you about the engines. And
Right.
so I love that kind of thing.
Have you seen the new movie?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but I need to.
It's good. It's really good. In fact, so that GT Academy that the movie is, and I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but it's about the GT Academy program they did, and that was late into my teenage years.
I didn't even know what a racing simulator was at young ages. I don't know if you knew what they were. I mean, I probably
Not really.
saw them, but it was like people having them. That was
Yeah,
like way,
especially in their houses.
that was not something that I thought was like. I mean, it because I wasn't racing or whatever. You like Gran Turismo. You might get the steering wheel and you're like, this is a setup right here.
This is peak.
It's a setup.
The future is now.
Now, if I could get some sort of like chair that's not sitting upright, and I can get this thing to stop moving, it would be perfect. You get too aggressive and that steering wheel might pop off.
Oh yeah, it did. It did.
But yeah, Gran Turismo, that was such a cool, and I hope that, unfortunately, what I see people kind of growing up with these days, like you said, it's like Halo, like everybody's just like shooting each other. Like, I wonder, and maybe they are, I'm just not in focused enough on that, but are people still doing those outside of the full race academy sim stuff? But do you think that those games are, Gran Turismo's still putting out new versions?
Yeah, they're still putting out games. In fact, Gran Turismo 7 just came out I guess technically last year now, 2022, 2023.
Yeah.
I haven't played it because I don't.
Yeah.
I have all my sim stuff. I have a pretty good sim rig at home, but now it's all run off a PC, and Gran Turismo is exclusive to PlayStation. So
Yeah. So when did you get your first car? When were you thinking about getting your first car, or what went into
I
that?
was thinking about getting my first car when I was 9, but
Right.
I got my first.
When was it a reality that it might happen?
Yeah, so it was when I was 15. I was almost 16. There was this burnt orange Pontiac GTOs of 07 sitting in Bonham, and we would drive by it every, at least once a week. And every time we drove by, I was obsessed with this car. I wanted it so bad. And I tried so hard to bug my dad into like, Dad, like, think about how cool this would be, like, to have a GTO. And he was like, yeah, it would be really cool. You're also 15 years old. I'm not getting you a GTO.
Right.
And I kind of get it, but still sucked. It probably would have been stupid to give me that kind of a car at that age. it would have been too much for me to undertake as far as like, I wouldn't have been able to keep gas in it. On top of that, it wasn't so much of a, I'm just giving you a car as so much as I'm fronting you the money for it, and I couldn't afford a GTO. And the other thing was, my dad said, he was like, also, if I were to get anyone a GTO, it would be me. And if I did get you a GTO, how am I supposed to explain to your older brothers that they all got Chevy Cavaliers and you got a GTO for your first car? I was like, well, as fate would have it, there was a 2007 burnt orange Pontiac Pursuit, Pontiac G5, in Bonham as well that we came across. So it was kind of like a GTO, but less cool in pretty much every measurable way.
A Pursuit, like a is it like a Canadian version or something?
Yeah, it was sold as the Pursuit everywhere but the United States. It was called the G5 in the United States. I don't know exactly why. They always have their reasons for their.
This was a Canadian type one.
No, this was actually, it was a G5. I just hated the name.
And you like
I liked the Pursuit better. So later on, I took the G5 badges off and I put the Pursuit one on.
Really?
Looked cooler, and it
How did
sounded.
it say? Pursuit?
Yeah, it was just a Pursuit badge instead of the G5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I just thought it sounded cooler. But anyways, yeah, so there was this G5 sitting there. It was a Pontiac. It was the same year. It was the same color, 2 doors. And it was also a manual. And that was the big thing. I had to have a manual. Had to have a manual for my first car. And we ended up going. We drove it. It was good. I liked it. My dad liked it. He liked the price. And so he was like, well, okay, well, we'll think on it. We'll discuss it. And a few weeks later, this was getting kind of close to my birthday. I had come home from school, and my mom was like, hey, I think your dad needs help up in the shop. Will you go find out what he wants? I was like, oh, okay. So I go up to the shop, and I walk in the door, and there's this burnt orange Pontiac G5 sitting in there. And I was so stoked. I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, you bought it. I'm so excited, thank you. And my dad kind of like, he was like, well, pump the brakes on, because hear what I have to say before you get too excited. And he was like, because you might not be as excited after this. And I was like, what do you mean? So I see you like my new car. And I was like, your new car? He was like, yes, my new car. You can use it to get to school and to work, but you will treat it as if it is my car. You will take care of it like it's my car. Once it's your car, you can modify it. You can do anything you want to it, but it's my car right now. He's like, so that's that. And that kind of like rained on my parade, because all leading up to, for 3 years, ever since I was 12, all I could think about was like, man, once I get my first car, I'm going to put a body kit on it. I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm going to make it super fast. I'm going to make it super cool. And now I was like, well, now I can't do any of that stuff yet. So, which I still have it to this day. But while I was in high school, I think I was a junior, I got into a car accident with it. I was going through Whitewright, and there's this little barbecue place. I think it's called Triple R or something. And a lot of truckers like to stop there. And so there's 18-wheelers, always 18-wheelers parked in the shoulder there. And a girl that I was going to school with, I don't know if she was texting, I don't know what she was doing, but she was dangerously close to missing her turn and slammed on her brakes really hard, because rather than, the 20-second inconvenience of going up a little ways and turning around and coming back, she decided just in a 55, 60 mile an hour zone, just landed her foot on the brake, and there's a semi in the shoulder, so I couldn't go to the shoulder, couldn't go into oncoming traffic, and I went straight into the back of her car and just trashed the front of the car, hood, bumper, upper frame rail, fenders, headlights. The whole front of the car was just destroyed.
What did Dad say about that? Was it still considered his car?
It was still.
Oh, wow.
He had kind of softened on it at that point, but
that was not a good day.
No, it was a really bad day. I was devastated. He was just happy that I was okay. But yeah, the car was, I mean, it was just shredded. It wasn't beyond repair though. It had frame damage, but I think my dad knew how important the car was to me, and he didn't let insurance take it. So it sat, and he said, well, it looks like you got to rebuild this car. So you got to get it fixed, got to get it running again. And my parents aren't the kind of, they weren't just going to throw another car at me. They weren't just going to let me take theirs or the truck. They were like, oh, it looks like, you're going to be riding the bus and you're back on your own 2 feet again. And so every day I walked from school, after school, I walked to the kennel. It wasn't too far, maybe 1.5 miles, 2 miles. I worked there for a few hours. I was making like $100 a week, but every single one of those dollars, I was so singular focused on fixing this car. And now I'm kind of in, obviously the situation sucks, but I'm kind of in a good position, because now it's like, well, I have to replace the bumper and the headlights and the hood and the fenders. And it's like, well, is there a reason I should put the factory ones back on there? I mean, factory OEM stuff a lot of times is more expensive than aftermarket stuff.
Right.
So I kind of found a way to kind of like
Justify it.
weasel my way into modding the car when I technically wasn't supposed to be yet. So I worked basically the entirety of my junior year there. I worked the entirety of my senior year. And my graduation gift from my dad was he got the frame damage fixed. But everything else was on me. And so the upper frame rail was fixed. They got that all. They had to cut it out, put a new one in, all that fun stuff. And then over that time, I started amassing like the body kits, like the front bumper, the new fenders, the hood, the halo headlights, the cool stuff. And that was a little bit of a learning curve and a learning experience, because that was also when I learned why a lot of fiberglass body kits are so inexpensive. It's because they're absolute garbage. So it went through a few variations. It went through a couple of different sets of fenders over the course of its time, a couple of different hoods, a couple of different front bumpers. But that was the car that I started learning how to autocross and stuff in. So rather than spending a whole bunch of money to like get it repainted, I was like, well, I'll put tires on it and I'll go do autocross. And so over time, that just kind of became like how everyone recognized it. And so I just never got it painted. So it's still like that to this day.
So that's where you started your autocross ventures.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's basically graduated from high school, right?
Yeah, it was right after I graduated.
So that's the daily.
What became my more like unbridled like race car moddable car was the SRT4 that I bought when I was 19. It belonged to a good friend of mine. And I had helped him work on it at times. I got really attached to it. And so when he was talking about maybe selling it, I was like, I want this car. Like, don't like, give me a little bit of time. Let me like scrounge together some money. Let me figure something out, but don't sell this car to anyone else. Like I want it. And he was patient. He gave me a really good deal on it. And, cause he knew it was going to a good home. He knew that he knew that he was going to see it a lot because we were good friends. And, so that's how I ended up with my second car, which was that silver SRT4. And I had that all the way up until I bought my Z06, actually. My Z06 was supposed to replace my Pontiac as my daily driver.
Nice. And so now the car you have now is Corvette.
Yeah.
The red one.
Yeah. So I bought that going on, wow, holy crap, are we going on 5 years? I bought it back in 2019. So in March will be 5 years that I've owned this car. The purchase of it was, I did some mental gymnastics with it. I needed to replace my Pontiac as my daily driver because from the time I got it as a teenager till it got wrecked the first time, it got wrecked the second time too. That wasn't as much fun either. I got rear-ended at a light.
Which one got wrecked again?
The Pontiac. Twice.
Twice.
Second time. Yeah. when I was 19, it got wrecked a second time, and that had nothing to do with me.
Still had the black.
Still had the black. So
What'd you hit this time?
yeah. Well, so
What portion of the car got hit?
the back.
Back.
So then it was the back.
The back's black.
The back is black too. Yes. So I was so mad. It was such a brutal. Yeah, that was a bad.
Now it's like a police cruiser.
Might as well be. Yeah. Yeah. So that one, the night before, me and my roommate, another one of my best friends growing up, Michael, we were out at the shop putting a new rear bumper on it. And you know how it is working with body panels. Putting it on is like only the first 15%. Then it's like all the panel gaps and all the frustrating, like the trimming, shaving, all that. It's just irritating. We were up until about 2 a.m. in the morning in the shop working on it, just rebuilt the tail end of the car, took it back home to Denison. We got up. It was probably 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. We were hungry. We got up. We're like, hey, let's go get some McDonald's. We drove down the road, got some McDonald's. On our way back. So the car had its new tail end on it for 10 hours. I'm sitting at a stoplight and kind of glancing in my mirror, and I'm like, that Oldsmobile's coming pretty fast. It's this old, like 80s Oldsmobile with a little old lady driving it. Super sweet lady.
Those are boats.
The big boat. It was,
And they're very
yeah. And I'm sitting there, and I've got a Chevy S10 in front of me. The light's red. I can't go anywhere. So I'm just like watching, like, car's coming pretty fast. It's like, that car's coming really fast. I was like, is she going to slow down? I was like, oh my God, is she going to slow down? And just straight into the back of me. And my first reaction was, I was furious. I got out of the car fuming. I'm 19 years old. I just stayed up late rebuilding the tail end of it. And I was so mad. I was ready to give whoever just ran into the back of my car just absolute hell. And then I see is she must have been 80 years old, this little old lady. And I was like, I can't yell at this. Why can't you be like, I don't know, a 25-year-old idiot dude, like, so I can yell at you.
Right? Anybody but a grandma.
Yeah. And she looked, you could tell like she felt so bad.
She just had a nick on her bumper with those cars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You do all that work, she piles it up, but you still have that car.
I still have it. Yep. Still have that Pursuit. Yeah.
Where do you keep all these things?
The Pontiac is currently sitting in my parents' house.
Okay.
Parked in front of the shop. One of my projects this year, it's fallen by the wayside.
Put stuff.
Yeah, it's fallen by the wayside. So I'm going to, probably this year, I'm going to try and basically restore it, bring it back. Because when I was modding it back when I was 19 years old, I was a lot more poor than I am now.
Just goofy.
So like a lot of real budget eBay stuff, not the greatest coilovers that are on it, not the,
Right.
I used a lot of zip ties on that car.
Yeah. A lot of black tape.
A lot of black tape, a lot of zip ties. And so
the Corvette that's the powerhouse now. That's basically, you drive it a lot, you race it a lot. That's how we kind of reconnected after Tailpipe Talks is at
LS Fest, right?
LS Fest.
Yeah.
Probably would have saw you at Good Guys, but missed last year,
I think,
years ago. But I've done a lot of those. So LS Fest, and then essentially you've been autocrossing for some years, but now you have the Corvette that you've had for 5 years. I mean, that's still a long period. I mean, it's essentially longer than I've been doing it.
With my Pontiac, it was like as I could afford it, when I could afford tires, it was a lot less.
It's fun.
Serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I would go out when they would do it at Lone Star Park. I would go for those little events. I think.
With Repeat or something.
Yeah. And it was just wanting the experience of getting to drive my car in a way that you don't typically get to drive a car.
Yeah. Technical drive. It's fun. A lot of people don't, and there may be a lot of people that are watching this that are like, I go to the track, or I go fast on the streets, or I go drag strip straight, in a line, 8 mile, quarter mile, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But if you've never autocrossed, I mean, I mean, I'll let you talk about it, but it's a different thing. It's not about how fast you're going. It's how can you really have to think a lot.
Yeah.
Because the courses aren't the same. You go to a track, the track stays the same.
Yeah. They're shorter.
Condition.
And they're so much more narrow too. You got to keep it in the cones.
It's so technical.
Yeah. It's a lot of that. What most people outside of the car watching, it doesn't look as exciting or flashy or interesting, but inside of the car, it can be a lot more chaotic than road course. If you're putting down power. So like, I know with your Camaro, it's tough. Got it dialed, but I imagine it's pretty tough to wrangle around a road course, or around an autocross course. It's the same thing with my Z06. It's got really long legs. It can put its power down. It's really great through like faster, high speed road courses. But with everything that I have done to it, because it's not a stock Z06, it can be a bit of a handful to wrestle around in those lower gears and in these like really tight, really twisty little courses. But it's also a lot of fun because you get to do it more.
Your tires don't get shredded as bad.
And the consequences of spinning or going off at 30,
lower risk.
50, yeah, it's much lower risk.
I mean, there's every turn is an issue on a road course. You could do something bad. Usually it's not that sketchy, but I mean, there's a possibility. Every turn on an autocross, there's not, you hit a cone. Mm-hmm. There might be one or two, like, go too far. Yeah. I hit a light on the lot, or go too far, you might hit a curve.
Gravel trap or.
Yeah. And that's the thing is on those is once you get into those pebbles, which are basically the whole course, it's, you don't really, I kind of equate it to playing baseball on, turf versus just going to your local park and trying to field a ground ball.
On the dirt.
Take one off the face. I mean, you just don't know the conditions. That's what you don't know when you're out there, is the conditions. And so what do you like? Do you like autocross on a conditioned autocross course? Let's say a go-kart track. Like Road America, you've never been there, but
no, but you
rerun the autocross. It's more of a track cross. Ellis Fest at TMS that's a track cross when they go on that track and they pinch off apexes. There's not a ton of turns like an autocross would have, but more of a track cross.
It's a lot more high speed turns.
That's where your car and my car, they perform well with those.
Oh yeah. And it's surf, like, kind of like you touched on, surface is a big thing. Like last year at Good Guys, the one you didn't make, so like the spring one, I think it was back in March.
Yeah.
That surface where they do Good Guys is not really very good.
It's super slick.
It's very slick. Well, because isn't that where they do the burnout pit or whatever when they have like bigger events? Or
the LS Fest one is a little bit over. I'm not sure about.
Yeah, so LS Fest is on the other, like on
that's the autocross, but the burnout pit is just also to the left of Good Guys over there.
Oh, you know what? I think you're right. Yeah,
that's a little bit over, but it's kind of the same area. But
yeah,
it's just the surface.
Yeah, the surface just isn't great. And then of course
it's super small.
When you're getting into like cars where you're getting kind of serious with your tires and stuff, temperature, like the surface temperature is a big thing.
Yeah.
And so like Good Guys in my alignment, I went up there, I didn't have time to get the car realigned before Good Guys. And so I went up there like on a highway alignment, and the surface wasn't good. The surface wasn't warm. It was like 55, 60 degrees and cloudy. And so it was just like,
yeah, if you don't have the Yokohamas, you're not going to do too well.
Yeah. It felt like, at Good Guys, it felt like driving a wheelbarrow around, like just pushing every turn.
Yeah.
I kept having to lock up in one specific little turn on my front right. It was just really non-cooperative.
That's the cool thing about autocross too is, well, it's good and it's bad because sometimes you don't get that many runs and you have to figure it out pretty quick. But, that's part of the challenge too, is it neutralizes a lot of really good drivers too, is that they've got to not just be a good driver, but figure out those conditions. And some of the best drivers, which, I try to look at what they do, and I think it's a lot of this, like they've just done it for so many years. They know exactly, not exactly, but they've seen conditions over and over. Their car's been dialed for so long. When you have a car that's like, you may change something or it's kind of been the same platform for a long period of time, you obviously have seen those conditions before. So hey, I might need to do this or just pedal your car a little bit more. And I think, so do you like autocross or road course or drag racing, or like, what's the one, if you said, look, perfect conditions on any surface, what's the one that you like the most?
Road course.
Why is that?
Probably because throughout all of my childhood, growing up playing like Gran Turismo, like I mentioned before, even to this day, I do a lot of sim racing. And so, as fun and as technical and challenging as, the satisfaction that I get from autocross, as much as I like that, I think there's a little bit more ease of measurement on a road course, because like you had mentioned, the track doesn't change. It's the same every day that you go there. The surface changes, the conditions changes, but the apex doesn't move. And so I can sit there in like Assetto Corsa or iRacing, even just by myself hot lapping. I can sit there and for hours just over again, because and just trying to chop my time down, like finding out where I can get more consistent, where I can carry more speed and stuff like that. And so, whereas autocross courses, the layout of Good Guys changes every single time. For instance, like I think fall the year before you were there, they had that long, so you come out and you're going this way.
Yeah, autocross over
straight.
Yeah.
Whereas Good Guys in the spring when I was there, that configuration was completely different. Yeah. And so it can be a little bit more challenging to measure, like when you go from one event to another. It's like, did I actually get faster, or is this layout just a little bit more favorable to?
Have you ever looked into those Garmin?
Yeah.
Controllers? The GPS systems, the new one that they have, I forget the name of it.
I can't remember what it, I can't.
Saw it at PRI.
They're super cool. The amount of,
and they give you constant feedback while you're driving of where your best times have, and it says pick up speed or brake, and then overlays it all, and then overlays actually the video. So let's say you were, racing in the morning, racing in the evening, and maybe the lighting change. You may be going through the same turn, and then you see a lighting change because you
shadow
your better portion. It puts all of the video together, and it puts your best run together, and so you can watch your best run.
How cool is that we're like the kind of data logging that is available to the average consumer, like the average car guy that's not being funded, that doesn't have the funding of like a big race team. It's just like with
you have a coach. It's basically coaching you on the road. The road course, it's better. Autocross is very tough for that to work, but the road course stuff, those controllers, just being able to, and maybe you can tell me how you feel about it, but being able to see your best run sitting in the cockpit or wherever, seeing it going forward.
Yeah.
You can actually see that's where I need to be. And that thing takes, let's say you did 6 runs. It takes all 6 runs, and like I said, splices it to make your best run. It's I saw it in action, and it's insane.
Do you think with stuff like that, do you think sometimes the data can get a little bit overwhelming and you can sometimes maybe get a little lost in the sauce with it?
That's not the visual. You'll never get lost in the sauce. Having your best run visually, I think, and maybe it could be something that I could ask on other shows for people, is if you can see visually your best run, you could watch that 100 times and be like, I need this. It's just like doing this. It's not as great as the sim. Maybe one day you can sit in your simulator and it plays it. Maybe the steering wheel actually gives you the input.
There was actually...
I mean, they replay it, but it doesn't give you the inputs, right?
So this was something really cool they did with I think it was Gran Turismo 5, and I don't think they carried it over because I just don't think enough people used it. But there was a really cool thing where you could I want to say it involved the 86 platform, like the FRS, BRZ, GT86, or like maybe it was whatever car was in the game. But cars like, you know, with the C7, how they have that camera on the bumper and they like do their own data logging. It's not as comprehensive as say as like the new Garmin and stuff, but you could take that data and you could somehow, I don't know exactly how, but you could put it into Gran Turismo and it would create data logs. So like, obviously it had to be a racetrack that was also, so like if you went and ran your C7.
So it gave you a ghost run of your real run.
Yeah. And it would generate your like all that data for you, your RPMs, your like, but as if it was done in game. And that was just, I'm guessing, you know, there's probably not a whole lot of people that actually like really use that. And that's why they didn't carry it on to the later games.
Yeah.
That was such a crazy cool thing. So that world between sim racing and real racing it's just getting closer and closer.
So I don't have the Garmin, but I was looking at it, and there's a lot of people that I race with that have it. And I was always wondering, they'll pop it off. It looks like an iPad, and they'll just be looking at it, and they could share and overlay data with somebody who's next to them. But just being able to, from what I was told when it's in the car, telling you, hey.
Yeah, because right now you're using Motec, right?
Yeah, Motec. So that's all really good system, but it's all after the fact. It's not real time. And it also doesn't overlay necessarily the cut.
Oh, so it's like
lap.
When the weekend's over, you get to go.
Not the weekend, because more advanced drivers like Mike Dussault will have an engineer there running his Motec.
Oh, yeah.
That'll pull the data and be like, you could go faster here. You brake better here on one session, but you messed it up. I think what the Garmin does, and I could be wrong, and the way they explained it to me, besides the fact that you could see your best runs spliced together of all your runs, is that in the car, it will actually tell you, you know, you broke too early or brake here. It tells you where you should brake. It tells you where you should be.
And again, the fact
that's intense.
The fact
that'd be like having a coach with comms telling you.
Yeah. Having that available to privateer teams and like the, you know, independent. I mean, that is truly revolutionary. And, you know, especially when you're a guy like Mike who has a race engineer and everything, like, I mean, like what Mike's doing, that's like the dream, man.
That's somebody like you that Garmin could be. The only reason I didn't get it's because I got the Motec system. But
so with your Motec, like, does it, what's kind of the extent of what it measures? Like, do you have like, are you looking at like brake temps, all that? Like,
if you have the sensor, it'll measure anything. Yeah. So I have digital brake bias, so I'm not doing the dial and trying to figure it out, or you know, it just tells you the percentage, because anything you put a sensor on, the Motec will read.
I know Motec, AEM, I think Bosch has theirs. Does Bosch have their data logging? I know they have like...
Well, the Motec and everything, it all, you know, there's adjustability on the Bosch braking system.
Gotcha.
But as far as, you know, the data loggers, I'm not that intense on Motec, but it's expansive. I mean, it'll read anything you can put a sensor on. And the data, if you know how to read it, you know, I mean, the thing that I like looking at on the Motec is, you put in the GPS coordinates of the start finish line, and most of the tracks are in there, but it'll read it, and it'll do the overlays and show you what percentage of, you know, braking you're on, what percentage acceleration, you know, it'll has the accelerometers on there and all that other stuff. And so it'll show you all that stuff, and you push like a play button, it'll just run it through, and then you can overlay different sessions and stuff like that. So there's so much data. But like, I look at the Garmin, and it's like, it basically would be like hitting like an AI button on the Motec and saying, tell me what I need to know, because I don't know how to read it necessarily, right? And that Garmin just, I think the biggest thing where maybe I would get a Garmin at some point is, like I said, if I could have data, like Road America, I love that track, and I have a bunch of data on it, a bunch of video. But if I had 20 sessions at Road America or any other track, and you put all that in, and it gave me my best time, and I could just sit here and watch that and see what that looks like in my car, you know, from my viewpoint, or the viewpoint of the camera, which is kind of like by where your mirror would be, I think, just wherever you mount it. If you could see that track over and over again and be like, yeah, the best time I had was when I was further out here, or I went later here. And a lot of times you'll know where the spots are, but to have, it's just like anything. You do good here, you didn't do good there, but then you forget where you did good or didn't do good. Yeah. But then this thing puts it all together and says, oh, well, here it is. Exactly. And if I saw that over and over again, your mind,
because we're always chasing that perfect lap. There's always like one turn you could have done. You always feel like you could have done.
Well, I don't know where the saying came from, but, you know, I heard it from Jimmy Day on a podcast, I think, for Optima, but, you know, and I think he got it from maybe it's just a common racing term, but he said it's actually a sports term. And the way I see it is that when you're playing sports and things slow down, that is when you know you're getting to proficiency. Because just like racing or sports or whatever, but it basically what he said was, if you're thinking, you're stinking. So if you're thinking about what you're doing out there on the track, on the turn or whatever, you're probably not doing very well.
Yeah.
So that's what I see on that visual aspect is, and you could be a visual learner, a data learner or whatever, but if you had all of them,
yeah,
that, you know, that's where your mind's like, this is just where the car should be.
Right. Well,
and you're not thinking about it.
Yeah, it is. It was just like,
just put it there.
What I was saying off camera is like, there's no such thing as bad information, just information you don't like.
Yeah.
Whether you're a visual or a data guy or not, being able to have both of those is just,
that's what sims do, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the perfect environment. You don't know.
But it's never going to be exact. But so one of the things like I have, like I said before, I have my sim rig at home and I do a lot of Assetto Corsa, and I actually have my car in Assetto Corsa, which is super cool.
Yeah. That's good about having a Corvette that you run.
Yeah, that's definitely.
You have a 69 Camaro, you're like, I'll race Big Red.
Yeah, right. Well, so the cool thing, what I did to like really create mine, because it's not a stock one, it really is very much mine.
Yeah.
Is a guy, I can't remember his name, like Lucas Macedo or something like that, made the C5 Z06 for Assetto Corsa. And I got in touch with him and I got the script file. And I was able to kind of like play with the power, play with, you know, all the gearing stuff. The gearing was, it was pretty spot on out of the box. But like play with the power, play with the suspension, alignment, all that stuff, and get it really feeling genuinely like my car. It's a little bit mind-bending. Then I have on my sim rig, I run a single monitor, but I run a curved monitor, and I have a IR head tracker. So like on my headset, I've got these IR contacts. And so I'm able to like, it's kind of like the same principle of VR, but without like the bulky headset. And so I'm able, like, while I'm driving, I'm like turning my head and looking around, being able to look at the apexes. And so being able to look around the inside of, approximating the inside of my own car, feeling this very, very, very similar feedback through the wheel, but then being able to take it to places that I know I'm going to be racing in the near future, because Road America's on my list. I don't know if I'll get there this year, but I'm going to get there. Road America, I'll be taking it up to Lime Rock Park in Connecticut for Grid Life Circuit Legends, down Super Lap Battle and at Circuit of the Americas, being able to take my car around those tracks. And again, it's never going to be perfect, but the information that you can get from that is just so useful. For instance, I'm going to go to a chassis mount wing because of what I was able to kind of take away from driving the sim version of my car at Lime Rock Park, because there's a couple of pretty aggressive crests, and one's a descending crest into a wide-ish right onto the main straight. Well, I'm coming down that crest in my car at roughly about 120 mile an hour. And that crest, the tail end, it's like all of a sudden you've probably experienced this at Road America, where you hit those crests and all of a sudden, like, you can just do this with your steering wheel. Like, if you lose all that feedback, well, there's a barrier. So I'm like, this is good to know now. Even if it's not perfect, even if it's not exactly the same, this is good to know now rather than learning that on my first hot lap or my third or fourth lap out on the track. I live in Connecticut. I'm going to have very, very limited opportunities. And so me being just a regular guy, having access to a sim where I can do that kind of thing it's incredible.
Yeah, it can't hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody says that, the sim will hurt. It doesn't matter what your sim racing is. I mean, at a minimum, you at least know the turns.
Yeah.
So
plus it gives you an opportunity to drive cars that, no one's ever going to toss me the keys to their F40.
Yeah.
It'd be nice, but
yeah.
So being able to have like that kind of level of immersion and being able to do things like that. And again, I'm not rich. I'm just a regular guy.
Yeah. I try to find cars that act like my car on a track. And a lot of times it has to be kind of like a newer Camaro or something that has a ton of horsepower, a lot of body roll, which mine doesn't have a lot of body roll, but it just, if I get into like a Corvette that has aero, it's like, I can go like 30 mile an hour faster to 50 miles an hour faster with like a C7R or something. It doesn't even make sense. Even with a CTSV R, it doesn't make sense. So that's fortunate that you have the ability to have your own car in there and then be able to make some tweaks. Because I could see that as some real value. Because, I'll run simulator times and then I'll get in my real car and it's like, well, I got close enough, but
well,
I'm trying to find that.
Yeah, and to top that off, like, so on my rig, my sim seat is actually my Corbo Forza Sport that I use in my car during like for LS Fest, for Grid Life, for like the Autocross stuff. And so I have my regular touring seat, my Evo's in there, but then when it's time for race week and I swap them out, so I take my seat straight off my sim rig, pop it right in the car. And so being able to sit in your actual seat,
it's pretty good.
Feeling a car that, feeling a simulation that's really compelling. And then I don't know if I got this little magnet. So I got really bored on my days off. And I decided to try something out. So my head tracker uses a little the IR emitter has a little magnet on it where I'm just able to pop it on my headset.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I wonder if I could stick this on my helmet. I decided to try it out just out of morbid curiosity. I know I looked like an absolute moron, but I don't care. It was fun for the few minutes that I tried it out. But I stuck the magnet on the side of my helmet, stuck the IR emitter on there, and so
helmet on.
I'm looking like an idiot, but I got my head tracker in my car seat with my helmet. I'm like, this is just a bizarre thing. But
the more you can do that simulates, especially having a helmet on, it's a different peripheral view.
Oh yeah, massively different. I don't think I'll probably make a habit of that though. I was like, this is super cool that I can do this, but
if your wife's not home, you'll be doing it. Don't lie. You're doing it every time somebody's not home.
I might.
I mean, it only helps. I mean, I haven't actually done that, but I don't have that tracker, but that sounds really cool to get.
But
I also don't have the wraparound. It's got the single TV, but I have the ability to put 3 monitors on there. I just haven't done it.
Yeah. You could do it on a single TV.
Yeah.
The curve is nice. Don't get me wrong, but that's not the super game changer. I mean, really, it's funny. You don't realize like how big of a game changer that is, especially because like when I play iRacing or something like that, and I love doing wheel-to-wheel racing, you don't realize just how limited your view is until you play with a head tracker and you're able, like going into a corner side by side with someone and being able to like just turn your head and like see like exactly where they're at. I feel like when I don't drive with it on my headset,
there's no way to know.
Yeah, it's just
That's the only thing about the TV is that
you don't realize how big of a
it's already there.
Yeah.
You know? You don't have to you turn your real head and it's there.
Yeah, well, so a lot of people when they're running like without head tracking or without VR, is they'll just have their field of view like super like backed out, and so it feels like you're, you know, like the old school GoPros where you got like this really big fisheye effect. Whereas, you know, if you're running the head tracking and you have that ability to turn your head and stuff like that, it's
That sounds cool.
being able to like bring your field of view back into what it actually is really genuinely like with your peripheral, like kind of like the
Well, I notice that sometimes, even on like tight turns at tracks, is like you wish you could, because I find myself doing it. I'll look and I'll be like, there's nothing there because it's just the end of the TV. Because you're wanting to see, where you're going to be coming out. Because as soon as a sharp turn, you can't see it. Like Road America, I think it's like turn 5. It's like big kind of hairpin-ish coming down a hill, and you'd want to kind of look over and just see
turn 5. I'm trying to remember.
It's coming down a hill. It's the middle.
Oh, I know. Okay, I know exactly.
It's only when you're going down the hill. At 150.
You have to brake like way early there too.
Depends on what car you're in. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I
depends on what early is. I've seen some people brake before they even got to the hill.
Before they crest.
Yeah. And so if you're braking after the crest, you're doing really good. If you got a really good car, you can brake probably.
Got a damn good car and right.
But you get down there and you don't want to be all the way in. So you're kind of out, but you kind of want to look over and be like, you know, where can I hit this? But you find yourself like, I can't see it until the car comes around. And that's just not realistic. You would have already been looking at that.
If we're thinking the same turn and then you go into that left-hander and then you have that like uphill.
We go uphill underneath the Corvette side. And then as soon as you get underneath, as soon as you crest that, you're on the brake and over.
Yeah. That's one of those turns. So
that one sneaks up on you.
That one really sneaks up on you. That,
like Canada corner. It's the last, it's the last sharp turn before you come back up and you're kind of coming back up to go to the front straightaway.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Those really sneak up.
You're hauling butt back there. Those are called the cut bottoms. And I believe that sharp turn at the end, that's where there's tons of runoff. This is where runoff. That's called Canada's corner.
Okay. Yeah, I don't.
So that's another one where you're heavy on the brakes, turning, but it's an awesome track. I think.
So would you say that's your favorite?
100%. Yeah.
Well, what would come in second for you?
I don't even know. I mean, I didn't have a good. I didn't have my car was. I only had one fuel pump running or something at Coda, so I think my car topped out at like 144 on the back straight at Coda, and I'm like,
oh wow,
I go 160 something at Road America. So there was something wrong with the car, but if I had full power at Coda, it would be up there. I mean, it's just so big and so fast. But
that climb into turn 1,
yeah, and Road America has everything. It has the environment, it has the elevation changes, it has the speed. Not super technical. It's not it's not one of those tracks where you've got to be a super technical driver.
Mm-hmm.
But it just has, I think, everything for the everyday person that wants to go do racing, but on a really big track and fast track. You can go as fast as you want. You don't have to go into the 160s or whatever. Some people are going close to, Mike Dussault hit 200.
200? Yeah.
So
you got to really trust your brakes.
And I've seen him go around turns that even if I raced a C7R on the sim and tried to go around him, I think his car goes around him. I mean, he's got 15-inch wide slicks on the back. Now, the big leg.
Oh, the kind of grip that thing must have. Yeah, that thing is...
So you're going to put a fixed wing on your Corvette.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I had to do some mental gymnastics. So it's a big wing.
Yeah.
I had to do some mental gymnastics for that one though. So one of the things that first of all, when I bought this car, it was supposed to be my new daily driver because my Pontiac was too low, only had 2 seats and I got bad gas mileage. And so I bought a Corvette.
Right. Basically the same thing.
Mental gym, yeah. But it's, believe it or not, it had better gas mileage.
On the highway.
But that was it. Yeah, that was really it. But I really wanted it, and I was really bummed about getting rid of my SRT. And so, like 4 days after I sold my SRT, I went and I bought this Corvette. But I was like, no, this is going to stay bone stock. I'm not doing it with this car. I'm not turning this into a race car like I always do. This is going to be my commuter. And the reason I got a Corvette was because why would I need to mod a C5 Z06? Like, it's got really respectable power right out of the box. It handles well. It sounds great. What do you really need to do? So I told myself I was not modding that car, and that lasted 36 hours. It had an exhaust on it almost immediately. And then it was like, oh, well, did the exhaust. Now, I guess I do the intake. It's like, well, I did intake and exhaust, and it just snowballed.
Yeah, it always snowballed.
It snowballed to what it is now, which is there's not really anything on there that hasn't been touched. But I said, okay, I failed my mission of not modding it, but it has to be a street car. It has to be a true road car.
Right.
That I can get in, I can drive it to the store, or I can take it on the several thousand mile auto rallies that I like to do.
Right.
So I just had it up in Tennessee, drove it all the way up, did the Tail of the Dragon. It was about 13 and a half to 14 hours one way. 6 days, I did 3,200 miles in it. And so it has to be a true road car. I can't be miserable driving it on the street. And so I said, I'm not doing crazy race car aero. I'm not doing this or that. And then I thought about it. Well, I really do need a rear wing, and I should really do a pretty aggressive front splitter. But what if I buy a different rear bumper and I build a race rear end for it, and I find a way that I can swap out the race rear end for track weekends, but I have to be able to put it back and make it really a true street car during the off season or in between events. And so, I started on that project actually just a few weeks ago. I got another torch red rear bumper, a little bit of rough shape, no cracks though. Just needs some paint correction. Started cutting it. I'm going to stick a transmission cooler. I'm going to open up the dead middle. I already kind of vented the sides a bit, did the speed holes, only put the bezels on it, because the C5, well, Corvettes in general are really notorious, but they parachute their rear bumper really bad. Yeah. And so I wanted to release that air, and if whatever air is going through there, I want to at least, it's like, okay, well, on its way out, it needs to pass through, it needs to be used for something. So pass it through a transmission cooler, and okay, cool. So I'll cut the slots for the pylons for the chassis mount wing on there, and then I can, in less than an hour, I can swap out the race tail end for the street tail end, just take off the chassis mount wing, take off the transmission cooler will always live in there, even on the street bumper, but at the very least, I have found a way to have my cake and eat it too.
There you go. So that's the way to do it.
As long as no one around me tries to hold me accountable to the no race car thing.
Right.
I can do my mental gymnastics. And
so we'll probably see you at potentially some Optima events down the road. I know that's your goal, and that you've got maybe in 2024 trying to look at maybe doing Texas 2K.
Yeah, so this year,
Live, Super Lap Battle. Yeah,
this year I'm really turning it up to 11. I'm trying to just, at the very least, if it's events that I'm not racing at, I want to be at, because I'm
just to kind of dry run it, see how things run.
Yeah, I want to,
you can't do that in a sim.
No, and
racing on a track's one thing, but the logistics and all the other.
And the other thing is the community. The community in racing is, especially amongst like privateer teams and independents, it's the atmosphere on like the paddocks is just so cool. You probably see a lot of the same guys at a lot of different events. Yeah. It's a tight-knit community. And one of the things that I love about certain events, especially even though it's not like serious like Optima, but like events like LS Fest, give people a really good segue into an insight into the camaraderie of a paddock. People are exchanging tools, people are extra parts. And so I've been active in the car community for almost my entire life. And that's one place that,
because even LS Fest Texas, you see the good guys that come there. You see some Optima guys that come there. You see the local autocross guys at EW there.
Yeah, because
see just all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's very, very obtainable. Like, it's not, some sort of professional garage. It's almost like what we were talking about with the NHRA. It's like, it's just so accessible to, it takes a little time to, go to those events, I think, and feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But you just got to go.
It's
really not uncomfortable. It's just yourself. It's not everybody else makes it uncomfortable. It's really you're thinking that they're going to be something different. It's really privateers and all this stuff. It's normal people, and I think that's LS Fest is probably a good example of, you're going to see a lot more than you will at the Good Guys. The Good Guys is kind of fun, and I like it. And you actually will see a lot of Optima people in the Good Guys because they like to do other Good Guys across the country.
Yeah.
But the LS Fest is starting to get that as well. But I think what you see at the LS Fest,
it's accessible.
You see a lot more differentiation at the LS Fest Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all LS cars, but
right. But it's interesting chassis. I mean, people they put in everything.
Yeah, so that's cool. So you're at least going to get a flavor of some of these others and see if you want to go to them if you just visit them and check.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna.
So that'll be cool.
Yeah, this next year I'll be at Super Lap Battle. I'm gonna make it to at least Grid Life Circuit Legends. I'm gonna try to make it to a couple. We got the Rocky Mountain Rally where we're going up to Ouray, Colorado. Staying in Telluride, doing the $1 Million Highway.
Yeah.
It's just every single month got something. Like, cause I mean, I'm in a very unique, very fortunate position with my work where I have extreme flexibility with my schedule.
Yeah.
And,
that makes it nice.
Yeah. Having that, but also, it's also my work and my hobby and my it's all blurs together because I work in automotive media. I do social media management and video editing for large automotive content creators. I don't know if I'm 100% comfortable saying exactly who I edit.
You don't have to, but it's big stuff.
I would have to look at my contract and see like what.
Look, I can vouch for you. It's good stuff.
If you're an automotive car guy, you 100% seen videos that I've edited.
Plus, they can follow some of your own channels, stuff like that. Like, what's the channels that you're on? Instagram?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I have my Instagram for my car. Fortunately for everyone, they don't have to spend too much time looking at this face. It's just my car. That's Lucy_Z06, so LUCI_Z06. And then my YouTube, if you do for some reason want to see my face, is just Chase Farrow. Very easy to find.
So the car's name's actually Lucy?
Yeah, so I've never actually been big on naming my cars.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people who, for some reason, a lot of people do. And hey, more power to them. That's not really my thing, but I had a coworker, I think it was a coworker, maybe. This was years ago when I first got it. It was like, so what are you going to name the car? I was like, I'm not going to. And like kept asking. And one of the things.
Only a car guy or gal would ask that question to you.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a normal.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't think normal people ask those questions. I mean, normal people being that they don't have to be racing, but just if somebody asks you what the name of your car is, they're kind of into car.
They recognize that there's
not an A to B.
Like there's
the A to B.
Yeah, there's at least a subconscious like recognition, like
a lot of people drive cars.
Anthropomorphization and the personalities of cars. They're very.
Well, I've met a lot of people that literally, when you have a conversation with them, they literally drive cars just to get from here to here. If that car was a Ferrari, if it was a truck, it was this. It's like, what's the best gas mileage? What's the cheapest or whatever, or what looks okay? Okay. It's like, I want something that looks cool.
Yeah.
I don't want
things
okay.
that always kind of been.
Sometimes you got to deal with okay until you get to cool, but that's fine. But at least if you're like, I want cool, but I have okay, that's fine too.
But
if you're just like, look, I could buy cool, but I settled for okay, I'm like, that's not a car person.
So the
right.
That's also So that's also the beauty of them, is you can buy something that's okay and incrementally take it to cool through modding it, and that's what's that's what I think is.
But it's like making car noises when you're a kid. It's like, it may not make that noise now, but I aspire for it to make that noise. But if you just flat out tell me I want it to, and I guess maybe for an electric car owner, you don't want it to make noise, but I guess the point is that if somebody randomly asks you what the name of your car is, it's going to be somebody who appreciates cars.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because the A to B person is
the A to B thing. One of the things that's always bewildered me is that a person can, and not judging anyone who's just not into cars.
There's no judgment.
Okay.
It's just how you know who a car person is.
I'm a little judge. I'm judging this tiniest little bit though, because one of the things that blows my mind is that it's like, okay, the idea that a person can be comfortable piloting a 4,000+ pound, their SUV or their truck, 4,000 pound mass of steel down a highway 10 to 15 feet from other people doing the exact same thing, all while 5 feet in front of them, there are thousands of explosions going on in this cast iron or this aluminum thing, or that, they can entrust doing that, or their lives to the safety equipment or their brakes or whatever it is, and have no idea how any of it works and not even have the slightest curiosity. That is an incredible amount of faith. I don't have it. That's always been something that's kind of blown my mind. It's like, you're not even slightly curious how this thing, like this system on your car that keeps you from dying every 5 minutes, functions. Yeah. And so, but that's just me. That's just kind of
like, you hear a different noise and you're like,
oh yeah,
that's not supposed to be there. Get in someone else's car and you're like, there's a lot of noises in it.
Yeah, it's like, hey,
your wheel bearings are gone. You get into a lot of Ubers and you hear the wheel bearings are gone. It's
just
you
hear that pulsating hum.
You're like, what? And then, you're hitting bumps and you're like always rocking around. You're like, your shocks are blown.
Yeah. You hear the clunk.
I'm like, dude.
Bushing's gone.
Yeah, I don't need this thing to get.
Lifter tick.
It's just.
When was the last time you changed your oil?
just all sorts of stuff. But again, it's just not their thing.
Yeah.
But that, I remember this movie, I think it was Shooter with Mark Wahlberg.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He goes to the old sniper guy,
mm-hmm.
and he's not blind or anything, but Mark Wahlberg was talking to the old sniper guy and was like, I'm a gun eater, and he's like, let me see your hand. Grabs his hand and like rubs the calluses and goes, okay. Like, that's what I'm saying is, somebody asks you about the name of your car. It's like,
there's certain things.
I know you're a car person.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could dive into more conversations. I'll tell you the reason why, but
there's certain.
So you named it. Long story.
Yeah. Long story short, I
named it Lucy.
I didn't actually.
Lucille Ball had red hair.
No, it's actually an explanation that my pastor father is probably not going to be as super stoked about.
Lucifer.
So one of the things that everyone noticed about my car, and I did not do this was just the way it worked out, is that my license plate is LYS 9666.
Oh.
And a lot of people think that was an intentional, like, oh, why would you do this? Like, I didn't.
Right.
Not intentional. I've never been, I will probably at some point, I'll do some kind of like, I don't know, vanity plate or something, but
yes.
And so it's red, the license plate, it's constant. When you drive it in the rain, it's constantly trying to kill you. And so it ended up it got that nickname. everyone's got a Red Devil something.
Right.
Arrow.
That's cool. Oh, that's cool. That's
So Lucifer got shortened down to Lucy, and so that's that. But I don't even know that I've ever called it that. I don't even think I came up with it, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's been years ago.
Yeah.
But it just stuck.
Yeah.
I needed an Instagram handle, and that was...
Yeah. Well, that's how it works.
Although, I did find out recently, so I have a pretty decent little following. Nothing like what you're working with, but one day I will. However, I had an interaction that kind of called into question. I was like, holy crap. One guy, I think he might go by like Black Y2K on Instagram. We were chatting, and we've interacted a few times via social media. He's been following me for a couple of years now, and we had this little interaction, and I don't remember exactly how it came to be, but basically he was like, dude, this whole time I thought you were a chick. I was like, really? And I thought, I was like, my faces, I don't have pictures of myself. It's all just the car.
Like,
and I was like, how many of my...
I thought it was cool that a chick had a red Corvette. It's like a song.
He was like, huh, you're a dude? No, but
That's
so
funny.
now I'm
That's
like,
funny.
how many of the people that follow, like, because I think I'm a little over 4,000 right now. Like, how many of the people on Instagram follow me thinking that like one day that I'm going to like just all of a sudden post, I'm a chick that's going to post some first.
Oh, you got to change your name on there.
Boy,
Lucifer Z06 written out. That's like...
Yeah, but well, this is...
You may not want that though.
No, because then I'll have to answer questions because as much as I tried, my mom found my YouTube channel and she follows it, and she if I swear she's like, I really wish you wouldn't do that. And so it's just easier not to explain it.
Well, that's good, man. Well, thanks for coming on today. I think we covered a bunch of stuff, and I'm hoping to see you at some Optima events and LS Fest and Good Guys. So I'll see you around again.
Oh, for sure. And, I'll be back there too. No,
that's right.
Camera and stuff.
That's right. You're the man behind the Texaco Camaro Show.
Well, I'm the guy that just points the camera. I'm just pointing the cameras. But yeah, I can't wait to get out there. Can't wait to sit and listen to guys like Mike, guys that, listen to
hopefully some cool stories.
Oh, absolutely. And then see him in the paddock, one day.
Hopefully you'll know a lot more about him, right? I mean, that's the whole genre of this, is to not just talk about mufflers and car parts. It's more like, who's the person that's actually like commanding that power?
Yeah, the guys that I look forward to their, kind of that time coming where the guys that I've been following for years, Mike was one of them. I've followed the Düsseldorf Camaro and all that stuff for a good number of years now through its various phases. And I was watching the videos on YouTube and watching the coverage of Global Time Attack, and then being able to then say that they're not just guys that inspired me, but they're now like, they're my peers that I'm sharing a paddock with. So that's the goal.
Right on. Well, we're gonna shut it down for this episode, but you're gonna get on the sim and drive Road America. We'll see what time you can get.
Oh yeah, gotta do it.
All right, stay tuned.
So theoretically, I should be decent at this since I'm a Corvette guy.
Okay, steady on this outlap. The tires will be cold and the brakes are not up to temperature.
Steering feels so different than mine. kept it out at all. Man, you touch that curb and it really, it spits you around. Dang, this thing is real tough once you get such a curve.
All right. Bit.
You're gonna not bid it, this braking's out.
And then,
Oh no!
we just focus.
Ooh, okay, we got through that. We're alive. You gotta have a light touch on these brakes.
About 90, 95 quit there. Might be a little hot.
This thing is super snappy. Don't touch this curb.
Stay pretty good through here. You can work on it.
All right, win it or bid it. We're going for it.
Don't spin it.
Okay, 22.
All right.
All right, I don't know if that's good or not, but probably not. But I feel like the takeaway from this show is going to be how bad people who drive real cars are at driving sim stars. What was it, 222, 140? All right, I'll take it. I'll take it.
So we just watched Chase run the simulator at Road America. He ran a 222.140. Pretty good time. You know, you only have 15 minutes on that sim to try and figure it out. And so, you know, depending on if you even run sims or not, they're all a little different. The touch and the feel, that one's not actuated. You know, just sit there, drive it. So it's going to kind of humble those who have more advanced sims and humble those who have never been on a sim. So I think it's going to be a really fun part of the show. Thanks, Chase, for coming on. We've got a full host of drivers that are lined up, going to be on the show. We've got even more that have been reaching out to us as they see it on social media and saying, hey, can I be on the show? Yes, you can. We've got some intake questions that we send out and see, you know, what you've got going on and when you can come on, and we'll try to slot you in either this year, next year, you never know. But if you have an interest, if you're into motorsports and you race, we would love to have you. This show is going to be about capturing kind of the biography of people that are privateers, hobbyists, shop owners that race, just kind of a whole gamut. We may even have some motorsports industry experts come on and talk to us about things, which, you know, we'll hear some pretty advanced stuff on Mike's episode. So that's right. Episode 001, Mike Dussault Designs. It's got that 1,200, 1,300 horsepower, 67 Camaro, wide body, 15-inch slicks on the back, Pikes Peak Hill Climb, Optum Ultimate Streetcar Champion, all-around good guy, coming soon. Like us, subscribe to us, YouTube, hit the alerts. Make sure you don't miss that episode 001 with Mike Dussault. Go to all streaming outlets, whether it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your content, we're going to be there. We're going to post it all out there. Grab it, post it, share it. We're all good with our content being out there for folks to share and push out there if you want to. If you're a content creator and you want to use it, use it. I want to get it all out there. Also, if you don't have any of those social media outlets, go to our website, TexacoCamaro.com. TexacoCamaro.com. We've got our race schedule out there. We'll have show updates out there. We have our links to all the social media out there. We have the die-cast cars out there. We've got the Texaco Camaro Aero front splitter for sale out there. A lot of stuff on the website, a lot of history on the website. Go there, follow us, stay tuned. Episode 001, Mike Dussault, coming soon.